Hello and welcome to another TLDR Brexit Explains video. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at a new report suggesting the government plans to legislate over the withdrawal agreement. This is something we first discussed a few weeks ago when we talked about the potential of Britain ignoring the withdrawal agreement, and in the light of the Internal Markets Bill, it looks like this might be happening for real. This is hugely controversial, could tank the Brexit negotiations, and as Ursula von der Leyen reminded the UK, could be in violation of international law. In this video, we'll explain what the new bill is, and discuss what it means for Brexit and the future of negotiations. Before we get going, if you didn't know already, we've just launched Season 5 of our Enamel Pin badges, now including Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Croatia, Slovakia, Slovenia, Latvia and Greece, meaning that we now have a pin for every EU country. To celebrate the 5th season, anyone who orders 3 or more badges will get a random badge added to their order. The link to the store can be found in the description. So, on Sunday, the Financial Times released a report suggesting that Johnson's government planned on essentially legislating over the withdrawal agreement. Basically, the government plans on passing domestic legislation that directly contradicts the withdrawal agreement, and then following that instead of the rules set out in the withdrawal agreement. Obviously, Johnson and his government only negotiated and agreed the withdrawal agreement at the end of 2019, so it seems more than a little ridiculous that he's now implicitly trying to erase parts of it. But stranger things have happened since we've been covering Brexit. Anyway, the report claimed that the government was going to use 2 pieces of legislation: the Internal Markets Bill, set to be published on Wednesday, and the Autumn Budget, in order to overwrite 3 parts of the withdrawal agreement that the UK and EU signed in 2019. The Internal Markets Bill, which is about guaranteeing frictionless trade within the UK's single market after Brexit, is in itself already a controversial piece of legislation because it legislates on devolved matters without the consent of the devolved administrations. But it's apparently also going to include clauses about state aid and exit summary declarations that contradict with the withdrawal agreement. The Autumn Budget, or technically the Autumn Finance Bill, is expected to contain clauses about customs declarations on the Northern Ireland-Great Britain border that contradict with the withdrawal agreement. So those are the 3 areas of the withdrawal agreement that Britain is set to overrule: state aid, exit summary declarations and customs declarations. Let's go through them, starting with state aid. State aid is basically when the state helps a company in order to give it a competitive advantage, usually by subsidising it. The EU has pretty strict state aid provisions to prevent EU countries from giving their companies unfair advantages over other companies in the EU. According to Article 10 of the Northern Irish Protocol, which is part of the withdrawal agreement, the whole of the UK will remain bound to a whole load of EU state aid laws, set out in Annex 5 of the Protocol. According to a House of Lords report, in practice, this means that any state aid that takes place in the UK is subject to EU state aid law, even after Brexit. Now, historically, the UK hasn't been big on state aid. For example, in 2014, state aid amounted to 0.33% of GDP in the UK, compared to a weighted average of 0.62% in the EU. So it's unclear why Johnson is so desperate for free rein on this issue. But he is, and it's been a major sticking point in negotiations. Anyway, according to the FT article, the Internal Markets Bill will contain clauses that basically say the UK can do whatever it wants with state aid, and they don't need to notify the EU unless the Business Secretary thinks it might be inconsistent with the Northern Irish Protocol. So, as long as the government have a willing and loyal Business Secretary, it can do whatever it wants, regardless of EU law or the withdrawal agreement. On to exit summary declarations. Again, under Article 5 of the Northern Irish Protocol, post-Brexit, Northern Ireland will remain in the EU's customs territory. The article includes a requirement that an exit summary is completed for all goods moving from Northern Ireland to Great Britain. That means that any goods coming from Northern Ireland to the UK will require an exit summary form, unless something can be agreed by the Northern Irish Joint Committee, which is made up of UK and EU officials. Now, this is likely to be a bit of a disaster, because very few Northern Irish businesses that export to the UK, especially smaller ones, are prepared for this change. And you can't really blame them, because the government and Johnson personally have spent the whole year saying that there won't be any checks between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, despite it clearly being stated in the withdrawal agreement.
There will not be checks. There will not be checks. I speak as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and a passionate unionist. There will not be checks on goods going from Northern Ireland to Great Britain. Because we're the government of the United Kingdom and we will not institute or implement or enact such checks.
Anyway, the Internal Markets Bill is expected to have some clauses in it that goods being sent from Northern Ireland to Great Britain won't require an exit summary, even though Johnson's own deal with the EU clearly states they do. And finally, customs declarations. As we stated a moment ago, Article 5 of the Northern Ireland Protocol means that Northern Ireland will remain in the EU's customs territory post-Brexit. This means that goods travelling from Great Britain to Northern Ireland will require customs declarations. This is to prevent Northern Ireland from becoming a backdoor into the EU single market, something the EU got more concerned about after the UK published its WTO tariff schedules on May 19th. Basically, many of the UK's tariffs will be a bit lower than their EU equivalents after May 1st, which means if there weren't customs declarations in place, traders could send their stock to Great Britain, pay the lower UK tariff, and then send it straight on to Northern Ireland and into the EU single market, thereby completely avoiding the EU's tariff. However, while the default is that all goods will require declarations, according to the Northern Irish Protocol, the Joint Committee does have the power to declare certain goods not at risk of moving into the single market. Basically, goods that are definitely not going to be sold in Northern Ireland and will not move into the EU via the Republic of Ireland. These not-at-risk goods would not require the customs declarations. Again, many Northern Irish businesses and the government itself just aren't ready for this. Northern Irish businesses aren't used to customs declarations and generally don't know which goods will need them, meaning that according to their own reports, the government will need to hire an additional 50,000 customs agents as soon as possible. So how will Britain solve this complex issue? Well, according to the FT, the Autumn Finance Bill will contain clauses that change who has the power to decide if goods are not at risk, taking the power away from the UK and EU Joint Committee and transferring it simply to UK ministers, completely changing the system laid out in the withdrawal agreement that the UK and EU signed. Yesterday, Number 10 released a statement admitting that they had plans to, quote, clarify the withdrawal agreement. However the government tries to spin this though, it does look like they're trying to renege on an international treaty, which is, to put it mildly, not cool. Predictably, the EU weren't impressed. Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, gently reminded the UK that doing so would be in violation of international law. Michel Barnier has said that honouring the withdrawal agreement is a precondition for confidence between us. And Simon Coveney, the Irish Minister for Foreign Affairs and Minister for Defence, said that it will be a very unwise way to proceed. You get the gist, not cool. So we'll have to wait and see until Wednesday to see the final contents of this bill. But if it is changing UK laws to clash with the withdrawal agreement, as the government's own remarks suggests, it could be catastrophic for UK-EU relations, as Britain would clearly be backtracking on the agreement they reached in December, a move that would make no deal more inevitable than ever. To follow this story as it develops, be sure to subscribe to the channel so that we can update you once we know more. Also, hit the bell icon to be notified every time we post a new video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of the videos, just like Ashley Medhurst, Dominic Capitou and Brian Ferris, then be sure to back us on Patreon. There's a link to that in the description.